There's something you repeat every day without thinking about it. You write it on forms, whisper it to delivery drivers, glance at it on your utility bills. It's the number etched into the front of your home. But what if that simple set of digits is doing more than helping mail arrive? What if your house number is quietly shaping your luck? In classical Feng Shui, numbers aren't just numerals, they're frequencies. Every address acts like a tuning fork, emitting a vibration that either invites flow or slows it. It doesn't matter if your home is new or old, when you say rented or owned. The number outside your door is the first energetic signal your home broadcasts. And depending on what that signal says, fortune may walk in easily or pass you by completely. You may think you chose your house because of its layout, location, or sunlight. But I want you to consider something else. Perhaps your house number chose you. Perhaps it reflects exactly where your energy was when you moved in. And perhaps it's time to update that message. Let's pause here. Think back. Have you ever lived somewhere that just felt off? Maybe the moment you moved in, things started breaking. You felt anxious for no reason. Money felt stuck. Even your relationship shifted. And yet, when you visited someone else's home, there was a warmth, a sense of flow, of welcome. You might have thought it was just interior design, but in many cases it was resonance. Some house numbers vibrate like an open invitation to luck. Others echo with delays, detours, and energetic weight. This isn't superstition, it's signal. In Feng Shui, we see every object and every number as part of a larger field of influence. A house number, when repeated and reinforced daily, becomes a personal mantra for your home. And like any mantra, it gathers power with time. If you've ever found yourself wondering, why do I keep working so hard and getting so little? Why don't opportunities stick? Why does this house feel heavy, even though it's beautiful? Today's conversation may offer more clarity than you expect. Because in this episode, we're going to dive into 6 powerful numbers that often carry the frequency of luck. These aren't chosen at random. They've shown up across time, space, and culture as consistent allies to wealth, harmony, and flow. We'll explore not only what each number symbolizes, but what kind of lifestyle it supports, and what to do if your house number isn't on the lucky list. And don't worry, this isn't about moving. This is about alignment. Because even if your address isn't ideal, Feng Shui always offers correction. Energy, when understood, can be redirected. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand what your house number is silently saying to the universe, but also how to refine that message. I'll even show you a simple yet powerful energetic adjustment you can do in under 5 minutes to shift your home's frequency, no matter what number you live with. So whether you're house hunting, considering a move, or simply looking to improve the life you're living right now, this episode is for you. Before we go deeper, I have a small favor to ask. If this topic already feels valuable to you, if this channel helps you see your space with fresh eyes, please take a moment to support us. Your single like, your share, or a quick subscribe is more than a digital button. It's what allows this wisdom to reach more homes around the world. It's how we build a circle of aligned, intentional living together. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can continue bringing you deeper Feng Shui teachings, ancient design insight, and energy-based guidance for your daily life. With your help, we can make that happen and continue creating spaces that welcome the life you actually want to live. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Now let's uncover what your house number has been saying silently all along. Why house numbers matter in Feng Shui. In Feng Shui, numbers aren't just symbols, they are vibrations. Each one carries with it the signature of a specific element: wood, fire, earth, metal, or water. And just like a room painted in a calming blue feels different from one covered in harsh fluorescent light, your home's number sends out a steady frequency that shapes the energy within. It's not about numerology in the mystical sense. nor about luck in the random sense. It's about resonance, how the numerical identity of your house aligns with the elemental flow of energy in and around your space. When that alignment is strong, life often moves with less resistance. Things click. The atmosphere feels supportive even before you bring in the furniture. But when that vibration is off, too aggressive, too cold, too unstable, it becomes harder to feel at ease. You may not be able to explain it, but something in the air feels unsettled. Money slips away faster. Conflict lingers longer. Peace doesn't land where it should. Think of it like trying to dance on uneven flooring. You can still move, but your body is always adjusting, always bracing. That's what it's like to live in a house whose number disrupts rather than enhances your energetic goals. You may still succeed, but it takes more push, more friction, more recovery. The energy never quite holds you. Feng Shui doesn't claim that numbers control your fate, but they absolutely influence the stage you perform on. They define the terrain beneath your daily efforts. In the same way that soft music can calm your nerves or blaring noise can leave you irritable, your house number sets the energetic tone for everything that happens inside. And just as we wouldn't choose to meditate in a room painted neon red, unless we wanted to stimulate anxiety, why would we expect financial flow from a house that energetically contradicts the wealth chi we're trying to cultivate? Numbers aren't just passive markers. They're mantras you live inside. When spoken enough times through address confirmations, package deliveries, or subconscious glances, they become part of the vibration field of your home. This is why, when used wisely, house numbers become powerful allies. And when overlooked, they quietly sabotage your best intentions. So the question is not, is this number lucky? The better question is, what energy is this number reinforcing? Because if you understand the elemental nature of each digit, you can begin to shape your space not just with objects, but with alignment. Alignment between the story you want your home to tell and the frequency it's already whispering. This is the silent influence that Feng Shui masters pay attention to. And once you tune in, you'll start to notice. Some addresses feel like doors that welcome your goals. Others feel like gates that ask you to work twice as hard. Let's explore the numbers that tend to invite fortune more easily and why they work the way they do. Number 1, the solo flame house. Number 1 carries the vibration of new beginnings. It is the archetype of the pioneer, the solitary flame that lights its own path. In Feng Shui, this number resonates deeply with the water element. Introspective, deep, focused, and often unwavering in its direction. It is an excellent address for those who are driven to build from scratch. Visionaries, entrepreneurs, leaders with a relentless calling to carve something new into the world. A home with the number 1 tends to support ambition and self-reliance. It encourages clarity of vision, strategic thinking, and independence. If you're someone who thrives in solitude, who enjoys the quiet of uninterrupted focus, then this number can serve as a powerful amplifier. It creates a container in which ideas are born and develop with minimal interference. But like all strengths, it has a shadow. The same frequency that fosters individualism can, over time, cultivate isolation. For couples or families, house number 1 can sometimes create subtle energetic separation. Communication may feel strained, connection may feel intermittent. Emotional warmth might become harder to access, not because the people have changed, but because the house gently prioritizes separation over togetherness. It's not malicious, it's the natural vibration of singularity. Even the water element, while fluid, tends to retreat rather than reach out. It seeks depth, not exposure. This house number may also quietly feed overwork. Because the energy of 1 is about direction and output, its residents often feel compelled to do more, build more, achieve more, sometimes at the cost of rest or emotional presence. If you live in a number 1 home and notice that your nights are more anxious than relaxing, or that your mind is always running even when the day is done, it may be that your space is reinforcing that solo, striving narrative. The fix, however, is not to move. It's to harmonize. Since the number 1 is rooted in water, you can temper its cold, sometimes isolating tendencies by introducing fire. This doesn't mean literally setting things ablaze. It means incorporating warm tones, dynamic shapes, and symbolic elements that invite connection. Red or orange accents in the entryway, a pair of candles on the dining table, 2 matching chairs facing each other in the living room. The goal is to introduce symbolic pairing into a space that otherwise promotes singular flow. One tech startup founder I worked with had been living in a unit numbered 01. His company had grown fast, and he was productive beyond belief. But every time he came home, he felt a strange sense of loneliness, even though the apartment was sleek, well-lit, and beautifully decorated. Upon evaluating the space, we found that everything from the desk to the sofa to the artwork celebrated individual effort. There was no softness, no symbols of companionship, no warmth. We made 3 changes. Added a small round coffee table made of walnut wood to break up the angular layout, placed 2 red cushions on the sofa instead of 1, and most importantly, he committed to hosting a casual dinner once a month for close friends. Within weeks, his mood shifted. His apartment didn't change him. It simply stopped reinforcing the part of him that was stuck in solitary momentum. His space began to support balance, and balance made him more effective. If you live in a house number 1, remember that it's not a sentence, it's a shape. It shapes how energy flows through your life. It shapes how your environment echoes back your beliefs and intentions. With awareness and small symbolic shifts, even the most independent frequency can be softened into one that supports both personal power and shared experience. This is where Feng Shui is not about fortune, it's about fluency. The more fluently your environment speaks your deeper needs, the easier it becomes for life to meet you halfway. So if you're building something new, yes, house number 1 may be perfect. But if you're also trying to build a life that includes intimacy, shared joy, and rest, make sure your home knows that. Because energy listens, and house numbers speak louder than most realize. Number 2, the root energy house. Number 2 embodies the essence of yin earth, stable, nurturing, receptive, and deeply rooted. It's the number of cohesion, of emotional soil where connection and care can flourish. In Feng Shui, the energy of 2 is not designed for ambition or acceleration. It is made for bonding. It encourages a slower rhythm, one that favors healing, conversation, and shared meals over grand gestures. That's why homes with this number are often best suited for families, couples, caregivers, and anyone recovering from emotional or physical disruption. It's not the house for launching fast-track success. It's the house for remembering who you are, for exhaling, for being held. Living in a number 2 house is like returning to a familiar melody. It may not thrill, but it comforts. You'll find that decisions made here are more about long-term stability than dramatic shifts. People sleep better, conversations stretch longer. Even the walls seem to hold memory a little more gently, but this deep-rooted energy, if left unbalanced, can begin to oversoothe. A space that promotes healing can also unconsciously enable stagnation. People living in a house, too, may become overly comfortable, resistant to change, or hesitant to challenge themselves. Dreams are discussed but not always acted upon. Ideas float without landing. Life feels safe, but perhaps a little too safe. This is the hidden tension of earth energy. When its comfort turns into complacency, the home begins to cradle you so well that you stop stretching toward the edge of your potential. Fortunately, Feng Shui never offers diagnosis without remedy. If you sense this dynamic in a number 2 home, the solution isn't to disrupt its core essence, but to gently reintroduce movement within the safety it provides. Begin with light. Warm, ambient lighting, especially in corners, helps to circulate qi that might otherwise settle too heavily. Your dining area in particular should never feel dormant. This is the heart of communal energy in a house too. Keep it lively with natural textures, rotating centerpieces, soft music during meals, or even fresh fruit in open display. The point is not decoration, it's energetic invitation. You're asking the space to participate, to activate its ability to both hold and inspire. The earth element responds best to subtle cues. A lively rug, a sunlit breakfast nook, the sound of laughter echoing through the kitchen. These small touches add just enough yang to keep the yin from becoming sleepy. Some home owners like to place a moving object, a mobile, a small indoor fountain, or a rotating sculpture in the center of the house. Not to disrupt, but to gently awaken the pulse of the space. Think of it like loosening compacted soil to let air and water in. You're not changing the soil, you're just allowing new life to take root more freely. I once consulted on a home where a retired couple had just moved in after a long period of stress and loss. Their house number was 2. Within weeks, they felt deeply rested, but also surprisingly unmotivated. The man, who had once loved woodworking, had abandoned his tools. The woman spent more time watching TV than gardening, which used to be her joy. We made a few adjustments, replaced heavy drapes with gauzy curtains, added yellow-tone lighting in their balcony, and moved their dinner table closer to the window for more sun. We also placed a beautiful round mirror near the entrance to reflect light and subtly double their energetic field. Within a month, their rhythms began to shift. He returned to his shed. She began sketching new garden plans. The house hadn't changed their desires. It had simply begun to hold them differently. If you live in a number 2 home, treat it like a fertile field. Honor its capacity to root you, but don't forget to plant new things. Let it be a space where recovery turns into renewal, where comfort evolves into curiosity, and where your dreams have room not just to rest, but to grow. Because the most powerful foundations aren't the ones that never move. They're the ones strong enough to carry movement without cracking. That's the promise of a well-balanced house number 2. It holds you close, but never too tightly. And in that quiet embrace, it reminds you that stability is not the opposite of change. It's the soil in which change can take hold. Number 3, the creative engine house. Number 3 pulses with the vibrant rhythm of wood energy, alive, youthful, expansive. It's the number of momentum, of fresh shoots pushing through soil, of unfiltered expression reaching for light. In Feng Shui, this frequency is ideal for those whose work or life depends on creation. Artists sketching their next masterpiece, teachers fostering new minds, parents building a home for playful growth. When you live in a number 3 house, don't expect stillness, expect energy. This is not the home for hermits or slow deliberators. It's a home that invites conversation, movement, and brainstorming. It often feels brighter, more awake, filled with starts of things, paintings in progress, projects underway, books with bookmarks halfway through. If you thrive on creativity, you'll feel right at home. But the very gift of 3 is also its challenge. Wood energy grows quickly, sometimes too quickly, in too many directions. It thrives on possibility but can struggle with focus. Without a strong central orientation, this energy becomes diffuse. Ideas start well but lose momentum. Schedules overflow. Rooms fill with half-begun intentions. For people who already have a tendency to multitask or chase inspiration, this house number can become both exhilarating and exhausting. In Feng Shui, this scattered qi is known as excessive yang without anchor. It's not bad, it's just loud. Over time, the effect is cumulative. You feel mentally cluttered, physically restless, emotionally inconsistent. That's why homes with this number require a specific form of energetic grounding, not through stillness or silence, but through focused elevation. Wood, after all, grows vertically. It needs direction. The simplest feng shui correction is to introduce a central, upward-pointing element that symbolizes clarity and cohesion. A tall indoor plant in a cylindrical pot, a vertical painting of bamboo or forest trees, a round wooden table placed intentionally in the heart of the home. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they are energetic pivots. They give the chi somewhere to organize itself. They remind the energy where to gather. I once worked with a freelance graphic designer who had lived in house number 3 for 2 years. Her creative output was high, but her satisfaction was low. She felt constantly behind, always juggling, never truly finishing. Her studio was cluttered, her ideas abundant but disjointed. We began with a simple repositioning. Her desk was turned to face a window that opened to morning light. Then we hung a long painting of vertical bamboo behind her chair to symbolically support her spine and flow. Within weeks, her work rhythm improved. She started finishing projects with more confidence and began attracting clients who valued her style rather than demanding change. The number hadn't changed, but the way she moved within it had. She was no longer drowning in wood energy, she was riding its upward wave. That's the key with a house number 3. It doesn't want you to slow down. It wants you to rise, but rise with shape. When this number is balanced, homes become places of joyful invention. Children flourish, art is made, meals are spontaneous, music is played, laughter echoes. But when unanchored, this same vibrancy becomes noise. Too much motion with no rest. Too much talking with no listening. Too many plans and no execution. That's why every number 3 home should have a focal point, an altar, a sculpture, a round table that serves as the axis of movement, a place where the energy can orbit rather than scatter. Wood doesn't need to be tamed, it needs to be supported, directed, not diminished. If you live in a number 3 house, celebrate its gifts. Let it be the place where new things begin and fresh air flows. But don't forget to give your energy somewhere to land. Build a nest in the middle of all that flight, because creativity without grounding is just chaos. And in a home built for brilliance, all that brilliance deserves to shine in completion, not just in potential. Number 6, the hidden stream house. Number 6 is rarely flashy. It doesn't carry the fiery punch of number 9 or the urgent drive of number 1, but in the realm of Feng Shui, it is one of the most quietly potent numbers you can inhabit. Rooted in a blend of metal and yin-water energies, the number 6 operates like a hidden stream beneath a stone bridge. Steady, unassuming, yet always in motion. It supports not through bursts of inspiration, but through long-term accumulation. If you're someone focused on building sustainable wealth, managing long-term investments, cultivating deep professional networks, or simply nurturing a family with lasting roots, this number may already be working in your favor, whether you've noticed it or not. The key with house number 6 is understanding its pace. It doesn't reward haste, it reinforces consistency. Residents of a 6 home often find that their best ideas don't explode, they unfold. Relationships deepen quietly. Opportunities come through friends of friends, or a chance meeting that leads to something substantial months later. It's the energy of compound interest, slow, calm, but real. You might not feel like you're on fire in a number 6 home, but if you tune into your life over several seasons, you'll likely notice that the foundation beneath you has grown stronger, your circle more solid, your mind more anchored. But like all frequencies, 6 has its nuance, its yin. Water quality can, over time, become a little too quiet. Metal can over-control, water can over-yield. You might find yourself stuck in patterns of waiting for confirmation, for permission, for just the right time. This slow build is a gift when intentional, but a drain when left unchecked. That's why Feng Shui teaches that homes vibrating at the frequency of 6 need subtle yet consistent activation. Not dramatic rearrangements, but thoughtful enhancements that keep the Qi circulating. The best way to do this is through light. Not bright overhead glares, but intentional illumination. Lamps with metallic frames placed at the entrance to create welcoming clarity. Mirrors positioned to double incoming light, especially near transitional spaces like the foyer or hallway. These elements awaken metal structure and amplify water's movement. They allow the energy to continue flowing gently while preventing it from becoming stagnant or overly passive. I once visited a house number 216, a classic 6 vibration tucked in a wooded neighborhood. The couple living there were both in the finance sector, managing high-value accounts with enormous patience and skill. But inside their home, despite the comfort, there was a subtle dimness. Every room relied on ceiling lighting alone. Entryways felt gray, and the air, though clean, felt too still. We added a few brass-accented lamps and introduced a mirrored console table with a small uplight beneath it. We also placed a small indoor fountain by the back patio, not large enough to dominate, but enough to create motion and melody. Within 2 months, the couple reported a noticeable uplift, not only in mood, but in the energy of conversations with clients and team members. Things that had been on hold for months were finally moving forward. It wasn't about luck. It was about harmonizing their home with the kind of flow they were trying to create in their work. That's the secret with a 6 house. It rewards those who understand timing. It supports those who know the value of steadiness. It's the number of quiet momentum, the long game. And yet, if you mistake its silence for inactivity, you risk letting its power fade into the background. The answer isn't to rush it, it's to engage it with gentle attention. Let mirrors reflect your intention. Let light bounce energy into overlooked corners. Let metallic accents sharpen your focus and direct your thought. Your home then becomes less of a backdrop and more of a partner. Not pushing you forward, but carrying you steadily, quietly towards something that lasts. Number 8. The pillar of powerhouse, number 8, is often revered in Feng Shui circles, and not without reason. It carries the energetic blueprint of success, the architecture of influence, and the magnetic pull of grounded prosperity. As Earth shifts into metal within this number signature, the result is a steady force of ambition meeting structure. Number 8 homes seem to pulse with a confidence that supports those with a strong sense of direction. It's the number of the professional who's built something real, the entrepreneur who knows how to hold power, the family who takes legacy seriously. If number 6 is a quiet stream, number 8 is a rising column of stone, stable, weight-bearing, invisible. This number doesn't flirt with growth, it demands it. And when harnessed well, it becomes one of the most energetically supportive addresses for wealth building, real estate expansion, and long-term financial breakthroughs. But there's an important caveat here. 8 amplifies what already exists. That means if you bring focus, clarity, and order to a number 8 home, the house will echo those intentions and fortify them. But if you bring clutter, physical, emotional, or energetic, it won't gently nudge you back on track. It will make the disorder louder. The number doesn't discriminate, it just magnifies. That's why so many people are surprised when moving into a house with 8 in the address doesn't automatically bring good fortune. They expect luck, but 8 doesn't deliver luck, it delivers leverage. This is why discipline is the key to activating number 8's full potential. You need rituals that anchor your intention into physical space. Clear surfaces, strong boundaries, structured flow from one room to the next. Symbolically, 8 responds best to the square, a shape that holds energy evenly with no weak corners. Decorating with square or rectangular objects brings resonance into the space. Tiled floors, framed artwork, square-shaped coasters or trays. The same goes for color and scent. Gold accents, particularly at eye level or above, activate the metal quality of 8 and pull prosperity forward. Scent, often overlooked, is a quiet activator. Patchouli and sandalwood ground the earth, while vetiver and ginger help consolidate chirag around wealth goals. I once worked with a real estate investor who moved into Unit 808. On paper, it was ideal. Double 8, layered stability, great location. But for the first few months, nothing changed. Deals stalled, negotiations dragged. The energy felt strangely flat. When I visited the space, it was clear that while the address carried promise, the house had no energetic structure to hold that promise. The entryway was sparse, dimly lit, and opened straight into an undefined hallway. We redesigned the entry with purpose, laid square marble tiles, installed a gold-framed mirror to reflect and expand the chi, and added a tray for keys and wallet as a symbolic landing point for wealth. Within months, he noticed not only increased closings, but a new sense of focus in his day-to-day rhythm. He hadn't changed his effort. He had aligned it. That's the real teaching of number 8. It rewards alignment. It reinforces systems. It says, show me the plan and I'll add fuel. But without that clarity, it will just as readily amplify confusion. This is why those who live in 8 homes should treat their space as an extension of their financial and energetic blueprint. Don't crowd the rooms with distractions. Don't leave the entry as an afterthought. Everything in a number 8 home is a declaration of values, of goals, of seriousness. Even a simple square bowl on the dining table with a few gold coins or a piece of pyrite can become a magnet, not because of superstition, but because intention finds form in repetition. So if you've just moved into a number 8 home or are considering one, ask yourself this: are you ready to be seen, to be structured, to grow not through chance, but through deliberate presence? Because this number will meet you where you stand and lift you if your foundation is steady. It is the Feng Shui equivalent of a power suit, strong lines, no apology, designed to command and contain. And when you wear it well, when your environment matches your effort, wealth stops being a chase. It becomes the atmosphere you move through. Number 9, the prestige path. Ao's number 9 glows with the unmistakable pulse of the fire element. Radiant, bold, attention-grabbing. In the language of Feng Shui, it is the number of culmination and visibility. Unlike numbers that support quiet accumulation or foundational rebuilding, 9 speaks to what is already flowering. It doesn't create the seed of success, but it magnifies the blossom. This makes it an especially magnetic number for those who want their work, their name, or their legacy to be seen. Politicians, public speakers, educators, and influencers often find themselves naturally drawn to number 9 homes, and with good reason. This address amplifies energy outward. It turns effort into recognition, vision into admiration, presence into impact. You don't have to try to shine in a number 9 home. The space already expects it of you. It calls forward charisma. It calls forward the courage to stand on your own path. And if you're someone who's already building something meaningful, this house will lift that journey and illuminate it in unexpected ways. But fire, as any wise practitioner of Feng Shui will tell you, is both illuminating and consuming. It burns bright, but if unchecked, it burns out. Number 9 homes are powerful, but they're not gentle. They ask a lot from their occupants. They draw people toward leadership, but can also provoke ego inflation, restlessness, or a subtle anxiety to constantly perform. You may feel as though you're always on, always needing to be impressive, expressive, or in control of your image. Over time, this can lead to emotional fatigue. Relationships may begin to feel transactional. Quiet moments might feel hollow. You may succeed outwardly while wondering why your inner peace feels frayed. This is the shadow of unbalanced fire chi, brilliant from afar but unstable up close. To harmonize with the energy of a number 9 house, you must learn to ground fire with earth. In practice, this means integrating elements into your environment that offer containment, coolness, and softness. Start with plants, especially those with broad, rounded leaves like pothos or jade. These plants soften the angular thrust of fire and introduce living stability. Use ceramic bowls in your kitchen or living room, not ornate, but earthy, with natural textures that absorb excess flame energy. Clay figurines, stoneware vases, and grounded artwork that emphasizes the horizon line rather than the sky can be deeply effective. The goal isn't to mute the fire, but to support it with form. A well-built fireplace, after all, doesn't extinguish fire. It gives it shape, direction, and safety. I once worked with a television anchor who had recently moved into a number 9 home. Her career took off almost immediately. More visibility, better contracts, expanding influence. But with it came sleeplessness, tension with her partner, and a creeping sense that she was becoming a persona rather than a person. When we assessed her space, the house was filled with mirrors, red accents, and angular furniture. Beautiful, but overwhelmingly fire-driven. We swapped some red decor for earthy yellows and terracottas. We added a bonsai tree on her balcony and a low, handcrafted ceramic tea table in her reading nook. We replaced harsh ceiling lights with soft uplighting. These weren't major renovations, but small recalibrations. Within weeks, she began sleeping better, reconnecting more authentically with loved ones, and feeling centered even amidst her rising fame. She didn't step away from the spotlight, but she stopped being scorched by it. That is the secret rhythm of a number 9 house. It will magnify whatever you bring into it, so bring what you want seen. It can make your work magnetic, your presence influential, your ideas unforgettable. But it also requires care. If your intention is unclear, it will amplify confusion. If your lifestyle is ungrounded, it will stoke chaos. But if your values are strong, your relationships tended, and your environment balanced with earthy textures and quiet corners, then the house becomes more than a stage. It becomes a vessel for your legacy. And legacy, in Feng Shui terms, is not just about how brightly you shine. It's about how steadily your light endures. If you live in a house number 9, treat it like a sacred spotlight. Let your truth be what it illuminates. Let your daily rituals feed not just your ambition, but your grounding. Then you'll find that the brightness of this home doesn't burn, it warms. And the prestige it offers is not hollow fame, but the real enduring glow of a life lived in purpose. What if your house number isn't lucky in Feng Shui? The belief that a so-called unlucky house number dooms its occupant to bad fortune is not only incorrect, it misunderstands the entire essence of energy work. Numbers don't dictate fate, they shape the context in which your energy flows. Just as a river can be rerouted or a garden rebalanced with the right arrangement of sunlight and soil, so too can the energetic frequency of your home be refined through intention, elemental awareness, and thoughtful design. It begins with the understanding that every number, no matter how difficult its reputation, has a corresponding energetic profile based on the 5 elements. Whether a number is dominated by metal, fire, water, earth, or wood, its imbalance or harmony depends entirely on how it interacts with the other elements around it. Energy is never fixed, it is influenced. It's malleable, and most importantly, it's yours to tend. Let's say your house number vibrates with heavy water energy. Water is depth, mystery, flow, but too much water can drown momentum, slow decision-making, and encourage emotional heaviness. If your life inside such a home feels stagnant or emotionally foggy, the answer isn't to move, it's to adjust. Introduce fire, which controls water through energetic contrast. This could be as simple as placing red candles or introducing triangular shapes into your decor. Wood also helps redirect water. As in nature, trees draw water upward and transform it into growth. A tall indoor plant or a wooden sculpture could shift the chi just enough to restore motion and inspiration. If the issue is too much fire energy, you might find yourself feeling overstimulated, always on, never grounded. Fire homes can be motivating, yes, but they also burn out the nervous system if not anchored properly. In this case, earth becomes your ally. Bring in low, wide furniture. Use beige, terracotta, or sandy tones in your barber textiles. Use ceramics or clay pottery. Or if you prefer a more fluid correction, water can gently cool fire when earth isn't enough. Try a tabletop fountain. Or place a piece of black tourmaline near your desk or sleeping space to absorb and soothe excess heat. For homes with an aggressive metal dominance, the effect can manifest as tension, rigidity, or even excessive perfectionism. While metal supports clarity, too much of it cuts. The counterbalance here is earth, which generates metal in the elemental cycle but also softens its sharpness. Earth materials, stones, crystals like citrine or yellow jade, square shapes, or grounding scents like sandalwood, help bring balance and comfort. A single piece of furniture with a heavy wooden base, or even a bowl of river stones in the entryway, can shift the home's emotional feel from hyper-efficiency to sustainable stability. But perhaps the most powerful adjustment you can make, no matter the number, is to install a symbolic number activator inside your home. This is an object that holds the frequency you feel is missing, or that supports the life you're trying to cultivate. A small but thriving plant at the front door to represent wooden growth, a brass bowl filled with coins to summon metal and wealth structure, a water feature in the dining area to keep financial chi circulating, a clay sculpture in the bedroom to ground rest and intimacy. These aren't random decorations. They are energetic instructions, reminders of the field you are curating in your living space. One of the simplest and often underestimated cures lies at the very entrance of your home. In Feng Shui, the front door is known as the mouth of Qi, the portal through which energy flows in and sets the tone for all that follows. Regardless of what number you live under, a clean, well-lit, and inviting front entry can significantly amplify your home's capacity to support you. A fresh doormat signals receptivity. A lantern or sconce provides warmth and protection. A few symmetrical potted plants add balance and vitality. Even if the house number itself isn't ideal, these choices alter how the number interacts with the space. A difficult number surrounded by intentional energy becomes neutral or even beneficial. It's not about luck, it's about participation. The Qi meets you where you meet it. In one consultation, a woman was deeply anxious about her address. Her house number ended in 4, which is often considered unlucky in some traditions due to its phonetic similarity to death in certain East Asian languages. But when I arrived, I found a sunlit entry, a neatly framed number plaque, a round-leafed ficus flanking the doorway, and wind chimes gently sounding above. Inside, the space was bright, clean, and grounded with warm wooden furniture and earth-toned textiles. Her life, full of community, health, and a steadily growing consulting practice. "I don't believe in luck," she said. "I believe in tone, and this house sings." That's the essence of Feng Shui. Your home is not a sentence, it's a conversation. If your address doesn't align with your goals, you don't need to change your house. You need to change the way your house holds energy. Numbers may speak first, but you choose the reply. You create the harmony. You determine the song. The house that spoke back. The story of the couple who moved into house number 3 reveals a truth about space that many overlook. Homes don't just shelter us, they echo us. At first glance, the home seemed full of promise. Number 3, after all, is often associated with creativity, momentum, and fresh possibilities. But within weeks of settling in, the couple began experiencing tensions that hadn't surfaced before. They argued over trivial things. Sleep felt light, rest felt incomplete, and a sense of emotional unease lingered in the background like static. Despite their best efforts to stay positive, something in the space itself felt off, as if it was amplifying every small disagreement into something louder, more disruptive. That's when they turned to Feng Shui for answers, not out of superstition, but out of desperation. What the consultation uncovered wasn't magic, it was misalignment. The house was full of sharp, clashing lines. The hallways pointed like arrows through the space, offering no containment for energy to settle. The walls were painted in bold colors that looked vibrant on Pinterest, but felt overstimulating in real life. The furniture was stylish, but rigid. Glass, metal, acrylic, things that glimmered but didn't ground. All of it combined to create a home that mimicked the energy of being constantly in process, but never arriving. This is the shadow side of the number 3 frequency. It's a growth number, but growth without structure is chaos. Motion without focus creates fragmentation. In its best form, 3 supports idea generation, artistic flow, and childlike enthusiasm. But when that energy is unanchored, it becomes scattered, reactive, unstable. The fix wasn't complicated. They softened the space with warm wooden textures, replacing a glass coffee table with a walnut one, adding floating wood shelves in the hallway to break up the visual velocity, swapping out fluorescent bulbs for diffused, warm-tone lighting. They introduced art with natural landscapes, horizons and trees, not abstract geometry. Most importantly, they decluttered the transitions between rooms. By simplifying the visual language of the home, they made space for energy to settle. The transformation was palpable. Arguments dwindled, not because the couple suddenly became different people, but because the space stopped inflaming their nervous systems. The wife described a feeling of being able to exhale again. The husband, a freelance designer, found himself finally finishing projects he had been procrastinating for months. Within 3 months, he landed a retainer with a long-sought client, an outcome that seemed coincidental at first, but began to look more and more like alignment. The house didn't just calm down, it began to support them. This is the quiet lesson most people miss when they talk about Feng Shui as aesthetics or ancient superstition. It's not about good luck or bad omens. It's about patterns of behavior, of interaction, of presence. A house number doesn't predict your life, but it sets a rhythm. If the number says grow, but your hallway says run, and your wall colors say shout, then don't be surprised if your experience is chaotic. But when every piece of your environment speaks the same language, when your address, layout, materials, and intentions align, that's when something subtle and profound happens. The house stops resisting, it starts echoing your highest aspirations, and it becomes easier to move, decide, rest, and rise. People often ask whether homes can really speak. The truth is they already are. In the way your chair faces the door, in the way your kitchen light flickers, in the way the hallway narrows your gaze, or the mirror cuts your reflection. Every design choice you've tolerated or ignored is part of a conversation you are having with your own subconscious. The good news? You can change the dialogue. You can realign the message. Because your home doesn't lie. It reflects. It mirrors what you've outgrown. It amplifies what you're still clinging to. But it also invites, softly, persistently, what you're ready to grow into. And when you finally listen, when you move the chair or paint the wall or light the entryway, it's not just a space that shifts, it's you. Final. A house number is not a verdict. It is an invitation. In the quiet hum of digits printed on your door, there is a frequency humming beneath, asking only to be heard, to be harmonized. Feng Shui does not treat numbers as magic nor superstition, but as living coordinates in the map of energy. And like a seed placed in soil, that number does not bloom or wither on its own. It waits for your hand, your attention, your design, your belief. It responds to how you light your entrance, to the materials you place near the threshold, to the stories you keep within your walls. Some homes are built on lucky numbers but feel heavy, while others carry so-called inauspicious digits and yet feel like sanctuaries. The difference is not luck, it's how energy is tended. You don't need to repaint your home or change your address to begin the shift. All it takes is a subtle question. What energy do I want this space to carry? And how can I help it carry that with grace? Maybe your number speaks of growth, then lift it with wood. Maybe it's dense with metal, then soften it with earth. Maybe it drips with water, then brighten it with fire. Maybe it feels flat, then awaken it with intention. This is not about believing in numbers. It's about believing in patterns and choosing which ones to live inside. So I invite you gently and sincerely to reflect. What number lives on your door? And what have you taught it to say? Share your number in the comments. And let us weave a living thread of awareness, one home, one energy field, one shift at a time. When we do this together, we don't just align our own spaces. We build a collective rhythm that helps everyone thrive. And if today's insights helped you see your space in a new way, if something clicked, even quietly, I warmly invite you to like, share, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Your support helps us reach the milestone of 1,000 followers. But more importantly, it lets me keep offering you content rooted in wisdom, not trends, in alignment, not anxiety. Thank you for being part of this growing circle of intention. Until next time, may your home be light-filled, your path be steady, and your number become a quiet code of prosperity.